Welcome back to Crypto Equation, and today we are stepping into a topic that has been circulating in whispers across the digital asset world. A question that seems simple, but carries a meaning far deeper than most people realize. Because when people say owning 3,000 XRP will be a dream for many, they are not talking about a number. They are talking about what that number represents in a world quietly shifting into a new era of digital value and global financial transformation. 3,000 XRP is not significant because of a price. It is significant because of the system that the asset belongs to, the infrastructure it connects to, the future it aligns with, and the transformation unfolding beneath the surface of global finance. This is the truth most people overlook. They look at 3,000 units and see quantity, but those who understand the direction of digital finance see something entirely different. They see a position inside a structural shift the world is only beginning to notice. To understand why 3,000 XRP has become such a symbolic threshold, you first need to understand the difference between speculation and alignment. Speculation is loud, emotional, chaotic, reactive. Alignment is quiet, intentional, and connected to long-term structural movement. People drawn to amounts like 3,000 XRP are not speculating on a quick outcome, even if they think they are. They are subconsciously aligning themselves with a system they sense is becoming more important with each passing year as the world continues its silent transition into digital settlement, digital liquidity, and digital connectivity. 3,000 XRP has become a dream for many because it symbolizes presence inside this transition, a footprint in a future financial system that most people still do not understand, a connection to global infrastructure that most people still do not see, a position inside a transformation that will reshape how value moves across the world. Not because of price movement, but because of systemic evolution. Now let us go deeper into the forces that created this symbolism. The first force is the collapse of old financial rails. The systems used to move money today are outdated, slow, and fragmented. They belong to a world before smartphones, before cloud computing, before instant commerce, before digital identity, and before globalization. Yet the modern world depends on these old systems to move value across borders. This mismatch has created enormous friction, and institutions know that the global economy cannot survive another decade on outdated rails. This is why digital settlement has become one of the most important conversations in global finance. And this is where XRP enters the picture. XRP was not created to be a speculative token. It was created as a digital settlement mechanism, a tool designed to operate inside the kind of financial architecture the world is now being forced to build. 3,000 XRP represents a connection to this future, not because of wealth, not because of profit, but because it symbolizes a position inside a system aligned with the demands of digital transformation. The second force behind this symbolic threshold is the rise of digital currencies. Central banks and governments around the world are launching digital versions of their national currencies. And while these digital currencies are not cryptocurrencies, they still need settlement rails to move across borders. They require interoperability, transparency, speed, and global liquidity. XRP's architecture fits this requirement. And the people who hold 3,000 XRP sense this alignment, even if they cannot explain it technically. They feel the shift before the world acknowledges it. The third force is the tokenization of real-world value. Assets that once lived on paper are moving onto digital ledgers, and tokenized value must travel across networks without friction. This requires digital settlement layers. It requires systems capable of moving value instantly around the world. XRP operates in this exact space. 3,000 XRP represents connection to this evolving system of tokenized value movement. The fourth force is institutional modernization. Banks, corporations, financial networks, and international bodies are all upgrading their systems behind the scenes, not for speculation, but for efficiency, not for markets, but for survival. They know that the way the world moves value today cannot support the digital economy of tomorrow. This is why settlement technologies like XRP are being studied, adopted, tested, or evaluated behind closed doors. 3,000 XRP is symbolic because it places someone psychologically inside this institutional transformation. Now, let us explore the emotional side of this symbolism, because emotion plays a larger role in digital asset behavior than most people admit. Humans crave significance. They crave meaning. They crave connection to something bigger than themselves. Owning 3,000 XRP becomes a dream for many because it feels like holding a small piece of a global shift, a shift that will impact every nation, every economy, every institution, and every individual. It feels like being early to something that the world will eventually recognize. It feels like seeing the future through a window the rest of the world has not yet opened. It feels like understanding a piece of the global puzzle while the rest of the population is still trying to figure out where the edges are. And because of this, 3,000 XRP becomes more than an amount. It becomes a symbol of awareness. Now let us dive even deeper into the psychological dimension of digital presence, because this is where the dream becomes clear. In the digital era, holding certain assets is not just ownership. It is participation. It is presence in a system that grows more relevant as global infrastructure evolves. It is alignment with technological shifts that will define the next 50 years of finance. 3,000 XRP represents digital presence within this transformation. It represents a place in the network. It represents participation in the shift. It represents awareness ahead of acceptance. It represents alignment ahead of adoption. And this emotional connection is what makes it a dream for many, especially those who understand how rare it is to be early in a global transformation. Now let us turn our attention to the global forces accelerating this shift, because understanding these forces reveals exactly why 3,000 XRP has become such a powerful symbol. Around the world, nations are modernizing rapidly as they face mounting pressure to digitize their economies. Payment systems are moving toward real-time settlement. Banks are replacing old infrastructure. Regulators are defining digital frameworks. Corporations are adopting blockchain technologies. The global coordination is unmistakable, and digital settlement will become the foundation of this new system. XRP sits inside this conversation. This is why 3,000 XRP is meaningful. It is not a promise. It is positioning, not a prediction, a perspective, not wealth, awareness. Because owning 3,000 XRP means understanding the world is changing and placing yourself inside that change instead of outside of it. Now let us explore something even more profound, the psychology of being early in a financial transformation. Being early does not mean predicting outcomes. It means recognizing direction. It means seeing signals before the world reacts. It means understanding that systems evolve slowly, at first, then suddenly all at once. People who hold 3,000 XRP sense this shift. They might not know the full technical framework or the regulatory details or the institutional timelines, but they feel the pull of global modernization. They feel the tension between old systems and new technologies. They feel the need for instant settlement and digital liquidity. They feel the inevitability of digital value rails replacing outdated analog systems. This sense of inevitability is what makes 3,000 XRP a dream for many, not because of the asset itself, but because of the future it connects to. Now let us go even deeper into the infrastructure layer of global finance, because this is where the real meaning of this threshold becomes undeniable. The world is moving toward a single global requirement: instant settlement, instant liquidity, instant interoperability, instant movement of value. Without it, the digital economy cannot function. Businesses cannot settle transactions fast enough. Governments cannot manage digital currencies. Individuals cannot send value globally. Corporations cannot operate across borders. Financial markets cannot synchronize. International trade cannot remain efficient. The entire global system relies on settlement. This is why settlement layers like XRP are being studied and explored so intensely behind the scenes. 3,000 XRP represents psychological exposure to this settlement evolution, not exposure to the market, exposure to the system, exposure to the future, exposure to the architecture the world may depend on. Now let us discuss the silent evolution happening inside institutions, because this is something the public rarely sees. Institutions do not announce their exploratory research. They test quietly. They evaluate quietly. They prepare quietly. They modernize quietly. The public sees nothing until the system is already in place. This is why early awareness around XRP feels so powerful. Holding 3,000 XRP becomes symbolic of understanding a transformation the world has not yet acknowledged openly. Now let us explore the difference between assets and infrastructure, because this difference is at the heart of this entire script. Assets fluctuate. Infrastructure endures. Assets react to markets. Infrastructure shapes markets. Assets create speculation. Infrastructure creates systems. XRP is infrastructure. This is why 3,000 units carry more emotional weight than quantity-based logic would suggest. It is because infrastructure does not rise and fall based on trend cycles. Infrastructure becomes the backbone of future systems. 3,000 XRP represents a personal tether to that backbone. Now let us explore interoperability, because interoperability is one of the key forces driving digital finance. The future financial system must allow value to move freely across platforms, currencies, networks, and borders. Interoperability is not optional. It is essential. XRP's architecture aligns with this need. This is why 3000 XRP feels like a meaningful threshold. People intuitively understand that interoperability will shape the world's financial future, even if they cannot explain the technology behind it. Now let us examine digital liquidity, because liquidity is the fuel of the financial engine. In the digital era, liquidity must move instantly and globally. It cannot remain stuck in national boundaries or slow-moving systems. XRP aligns with real-time liquidity movement. 3000 XRP becomes symbolic of participation in the next era of liquidity technology. Now let us explore transparency, because transparency is becoming one of the most critical aspects of modern finance. Digital systems require auditable movement of value without sacrificing efficiency. XRP fits this requirement. This is why 3000 units carried by an individual feel significant. People sense that transparency and instant settlement will become inseparable in the future. Now we arrive at the emotional core of this topic. People dream of owning 3000 XRP because they dream of being part of a moment in history where the world is quietly reshaping its financial foundation. They dream of understanding the shift before the rest of the world. They dream of participating in a transformation that will define the next 50 years of global commerce. This dream is not about wealth. It is about witnessing change. It is about connection. It is about relevance. It is about alignment. This is why owning 3000 XRP will be a dream for many, not because of a price target, but because of what the future demands. The second half of this script will go even deeper into the psychology behind this threshold, the global transformation happening beneath the surface, and the true meaning of being early to a system the world is just beginning to understand. Because the deeper truth behind this topic is not found in the number 3000, but in the transformation unfolding beneath every major institution, government, and financial network on the planet. And once you understand this, the meaning behind holding 3000 XRP becomes clearer than ever, because it represents participation in a shift so large and so foundational that most people will only realize its scale after it has already happened. The people who hold 3000 XRP today are not just holding a digital asset. They are holding a position inside a system that is evolving rapidly and silently, a system that will redefine how value moves, how economies interact, and how global liquidity functions. The first deeper truth in the second half is the acceleration of global convergence. For decades, the world operated on fragmented systems. Each country, each bank, each institution building its own infrastructure. But the digital era does not allow fragmentation. Digital systems require synchronization. Digital commerce requires unified rails. Digital currencies require shared settlement layers. And the world is converging toward these requirements faster than the public sees. This convergence is why 3000 XRP feels meaningful. It represents alignment with an asset positioned at the center of the global push toward interoperability. The second truth is the role of scarcity, not in the speculative sense, but in the infrastructural sense. In the digital era, infrastructure becomes scarce not because there is not enough, but because only a few networks become widely adopted. The world does not use thousands of payment networks. It uses a handful. The world does not use thousands of internet protocols. It uses a handful. The world will not use thousands of settlement rails. It will use a handful. XRP exists inside the category of rails that meet the requirements of the digital economy, and this is why 3000 units feel so symbolic. It is not about owning a speculative amount. It is about owning a presence within an infrastructure space that is rare and increasingly relevant. And the third truth is the silent pressure of globalization. The world is more connected than ever yet. The financial systems connecting it are more outdated than ever. This contradiction is one of the largest sources of economic inefficiency in modern history. Money has not kept up with the internet. Settlement has not kept up with commerce. Liquidity has not kept up with globalization. XRP represents a model that solves these inefficiencies, and 3000 units symbolize alignment with that model. The fourth truth is the inevitability of digital transformation. At some point, old systems must be replaced. They cannot be patched forever. They cannot scale forever. They cannot support the digital era forever. And institutions know this. They know the future requires rails capable of moving value instantly across borders. The people holding 3000 XRP intuitively sense the inevitability of this transformation, even if they cannot express it in technical terms. The fifth truth is the psychology of thresholds. Humans anchor meaning to numbers, because numbers help them understand intangible ideas. 3000 XRP becomes a psychological threshold not because of what it is, but because of what it symbolizes. It symbolizes early participation in the next generation of financial infrastructure. It symbolizes readiness for digital evolution. It symbolizes connection to a system designed for the future. This is why owning 3,000 XRP becomes a dream for many. It represents more than ownership. It represents awareness. The sixth truth is hidden inside institutional behavior. Institutions do not operate based on emotion. They operate based on necessity. They adopt technologies that solve real problems. They build systems around efficiency. They modernize infrastructure to reduce cost, risk, and complexity. And the silent truth is that many institutions have already acknowledged the need for interoperability, instant settlement, and digital liquidity. These needs will not disappear. They will intensify. 3,000 XRP symbolizes alignment with these needs, not through speculation, but through technological relevance. The seventh truth is that the digital future demands new forms of value movement. Artificial intelligence automation, smart contracts, tokenized assets, and real-time commerce cannot function on outdated rails. They require systems capable of instant global settlement. XRP is built inside that requirement. This is why 3,000 XRP feels meaningful. It represents understanding of where the world is heading. Now let us turn to the emotional core of why this amount feels so significant to so many people. Because owning 3,000 XRP is not about predicting outcomes. It is about connecting to a system transformation bigger than any individual. It is about witnessing the early stages of a new financial era. It is about participating in a shift that will shape how future generations move value across the world. People dream of owning 3,000 XRP because it feels like being positioned inside the foundation of the next financial evolution. They see the signs, they feel the momentum, they sense the global shift. They recognize that the world is leaving the analog era behind and preparing for a digital one. This sense of witnessing history is what creates the dream. The eighth truth is the rare nature of foresight. Most people do not see transformational shifts until they are complete. They do not see the early internet. They do not see early smartphones. They do not see early artificial intelligence. But the people who hold 3,000 XRP feel like they see the shift happening in real time. They feel early. And being early in a global transformation feels powerful because it creates a sense of clarity the rest of the world has not caught up to yet. The ninth truth is that digital settlement is not a trend. It is a structural requirement. Every major financial system in the world will transition to instantaneous value movement because the alternative is economic inefficiency that cannot sustain modern global activity. 3,000 XRP symbolizes alignment with this structural truth. The 10th and final truth is the most profound. 3,000 XRP will be a dream for many because it represents understanding. Understanding of the future, understanding of infrastructure, understanding of digital value, understanding of global evolution. The significance is not the asset. It is the awareness, it is the connection, it is the perspective, it is the alignment with a world being rebuilt beneath the surface of the one we know today. 3,000 XRP is a dream because it represents being part of a shift most people will only recognize after it has already happened. It represents seeing the inevitable before it becomes obvious. It represents holding a footprint inside the next era of financial architecture. And the truth is simple. Owning 3,000 XRP will be a dream for many, not because of wealth, not because of predictions, but because it places you inside the transformation shaping the digital world of tomorrow. It is not a promise. It is not a guarantee. It is a position in history, a position in the shift, a position inside the evolution of global value. That is the real reason owning 3,000 XRP will be a dream for many. People dream of owning 3,000 XRP because they dream of being part of a moment in history where the world is quietly reshaping its financial foundation. They dream of understanding the shift before the rest of the world. They dream of participating in a transformation that will define the next 50 years of global commerce. This dream is not about wealth. It is about witnessing change. It is about connection. It is about relevance. It is about alignment. This is why owning 3,000 XRP will be a dream for many, not because of a price target, but because of what the future demands. The second half of this script will go even deeper into the psychology behind this threshold, the global transformation happening beneath the surface, and the true meaning of being early to a system the world is just beginning to understand.